So Eden Zero has released and nobody is talking about it, which makes sense because games based off of animes aren't usually the best quality. They're usually arena fighters and sometimes not even very good arena fighters. Then you get games like the Jujutsu Kaisen game that a lot of people didn't like. And then sometimes you get the oddball like the Fairy Tail ones, which have some good charm to them, but they're still not super great JRPGs or anything. Eden Zero has definitely been the best one that I've personally played out of games heavily based on anime. And I definitely think certain JRPG fans will actually love this game the way I have. I genuinely finished it and had such a fun experience. I'm honestly sad it's over. Now, let me get something straight. This is JRPG junk food, but it's the highest of quality of junk food. That's the way I like to put it. There's definitely some lows here and some quality that doesn't really match your typical great JRPG, but then there's other moments where the game really tries and has a lot of content in certain areas, and you could tell there is good passion here for the source material. So I wanted to go into Eden Zero and give you guys a review of the good and bad and kind of tell you my experience with it, as I honestly am pretty passionate about it after I finished it. I really enjoyed my time. Now, in terms of the story, now this is honestly a little bit of the weird part, and some people might think this is crazy, but I actually think they did some of the arcs in this game's story mode better than the anime. So for reference, I only watched a little bit of the anime and then I played this game. So I didn't have much history with the anime, and this was my first experience with Eden Zero as a whole. But I wanted to see some arcs again because I loved them and thought they were hilarious. So I went and watched the anime, and I was actually pretty surprised that some of the arcs actually were better in the game for me. And that was for a few reasons. One, I think some of the scenes are way funnier in 3D, so that helped with the kind of comedic relief and timing of quotes. And then there's the music. In some areas in the anime, music doesn't play, or it just doesn't do it in the way the game has. Since it's a JRPG, there is music themes for a whole bunch of things, and some of the themes were really well done or just added a lot of comedic value to these cutscenes. The way you also go through each of the arcs is actually pretty well done. I was never lost, and I followed along the story very well, and it really fit in kind of this JRPG story format, so I thought they did a great job. Now, they do skip over some things at points. It feels a little sloppy or rushed, but out of all the anime games I played, this one did it the best. This actually feels like they put it into a JRPG and they were able to actually coherently tell the story with some decent pacing. Obviously, the visuals aren't anything special. Some of the cutscenes look bleh, and in general, the character models aren't the best, but this game is very shiny. Like, the performance is pretty good on PS5 to where I think they just left it in 4K, so that means the frame rate is not always amazing, especially in the open world, but we'll get to the open world later. But everything is very crisp and shiny and colorful, and I really enjoyed that just through the whole game. Oh my gosh, and then the characters, dude. Like, this game had me on the floor at points. These characters are so funny, and the voice actors did an incredible job. Now, there is no dub, but the Japanese voice actors did such a good job. I really was laughing my ass off, and I love this cast of characters. If you don't know the story at all, a little synopsis is this boy, Shiki, lived on a planet with robots his entire life, and he just wanted to make friends. And he eventually gets on a ship with this girl named Rebecca, who is called a B-Cuber, basically a VTuber, but she basically makes YouTube videos and streams. And she takes him to go on a bunch of different planets, and Shiki is a fun protagonist because he's so oblivious. He's like, it's almost his innocence that's so funny. He'll just walk up to a random person and be like, you guys want to be my friend? But it really is funny, and he also has this hope in him where he wants to protect everybody and just bring good positive energy to the world. And then the rest of the cast all have their quirks, and they're mostly hilarious. And what's cool about this being a game is there's these social link type things where you increase their bonds or just see a bunch of scenarios with the characters that are not in the anime. There's special scenarios that are only for the game, and those were hilarious and always fun to watch. Now let's get into the gameplay, which is always the most important thing to me, and this is where it's a mixed bag, but even though it's mixed, it was always fun, and I think the reason for that is the variety. You could play as so many different characters, and they all play so so differently. Like, one character does not play anything like the others, and you swap between them in the middle of battle so they can kind of bounce off each other and use their abilities and cohesion to output some crazy damage. They also all have their own skill trees that you edit, and you get a bunch of new moves, and at times it can feel stiff, but then other times it actually flows well. It's hard to explain. Like, other characters definitely play better than some others. Like, Homura is the sword user, and I pretty much used her the whole time. She is smooth, dude. Her sword combos are really fun. You could dodge cancel out of most of your combos, so that's good, so you don't get stuck in place too much. But then there's other moves where you activate them and the animations are way too long, and in general, there is some clunk. It's almost hard to explain. I think it actually has to do with the enemies and the bosses more than the characters, because the characters control pretty good, but some of the way the enemies kind of fly around the place and you can't zip to them fast enough, or if the bosses are just standing there while you're hitting them, that's where the jank comes in. But again, I kind of overlooked it because it was just fun the whole time. Again, there's so much to play with here in terms of crazy abilities for each character that I had a good time. Now, what I think really elevated this game as well is the exploration. So if it was just the story chapters, I think this game would have been like a 5.5, 6 out of 10, even though I enjoyed the story. But the content of the exploration is actually what elevates it. So whenever you want, you could just go to the planet Blue Garden and explore. One thing they got right is no matter how lame some of the side quests may be, it's always fun to fly around. You could literally fly into the air as Shiki and just soar around this place, looking for new content like files or even outfits and treasure chests, and that was always cool. And then you're doing a bunch of side quests to raise your guild rank, and that just keeps going up and gets you more new side quests. And then you could also just kind of explore the lands, and some enemies will be stronger than others. You'll find special little bosses in camps, you know, the same crap you've seen all in open world games, but it's still fun here and a nice addition to the game. Again, I don't think anything is going to blow you away. Nothing necessarily blew me away, but it was just good junk food, man. I was laughing at the characters. You could dress them up in hundreds of costumes, and I'm not joking, hundreds, and that was really cool. You could even change the individual colors of each set of your outfits, and then you're kind of just flying around the world, beating the crap out of things. So there's nothing that just kind of blows you away, but it's a lot of good fun if you enjoy anime, if you enjoy JRPGs. I genuinely think if you don't mind jank here and there and some poor visuals at times, you will actually have a great time with this, especially if you never watched the anime. I mean, I was in those shoes and I loved the story and characters here. I think the characters being so fun to watch goes hand in hand with the combat, because since I loved the characters, I wanted to play as them, right? And they give you a giant roster. You could pretty much play as the entire main cast. So I'm like, oh, I gotta check out their moves. Then you go through a couple arcs and you get another character and you're like, oh, I gotta try out their moves. So it's honestly really cool. And then you go to the Eden Zero, which is their spaceship, and it has a decent amount of stuff. You could go cooking. There's some mini games like massages, which are really funny. There's Sister's Punishment mini game, which is basically a rhythm game, but like that's kind of the comedy here. Like a punishment mini game, you're literally whipping this guy and it's a rhythm game. Like that stuff is honestly hilarious to me, and there's a lot of that crazy comedy through this. There's also a lot of fan service, so whether you like or dislike fan service, just know there is a lot of it here, especially with a lot of the outfits. So I genuinely had a great time with Eden Zero. I'm glad I got to go through this story with these characters. The combat could definitely be fun, even though a bit jank at times, and definitely not up there with like some of the best combat systems I've played in RPGs. Absolutely not, but it's still good junk food. And I think if you don't really have a giant budget right now, or maybe you want to wait for the game to have a sale, I definitely think it's worth playing. It does have a demo you could go try out, but the demo doesn't really do it justice, and it kind of skips around with the story and almost will turn you off possibly. But at the same time, I actually do think this game is worth playing, and I'm happy it exists. It gave me an extremely fun time. I wanted to get this review out there because genuinely nobody is talking about this game, and especially fans of like Star Ocean, or if you want to just go into space, that type of thing, explore crazy different planets, I think you'll love this game, and that was kind of where I was at. So I hope you guys enjoyed this review of Eden Zero. Genuinely a fun game. Is it worth full price? It really depends. Again, if you like JRPG junk food, I think this will be some of the best junk food you'll have in a while. But if you want quality in almost every corner, or you're expecting like a Xenoblade or something like that, you will not get that here. But if you want to just laugh your ass off a bit, dress your characters up in some lewd or funny outfits, and beat the crap out of a bunch of trolls and fly around the place, Eden Zero will definitely give you a good time. So I hope you guys enjoyed this review, and I hope you guys have a fantastic day, and I'll see you in the next video very soon. Peace.